Hey YouTube, back at home again today I'm afraid. I was going to be down the plot prepping my trenches for my potatoes, but unfortunately circumstances are such that I've had to stay home. I'm not sick, it's not coronavirus, I just changing circumstances have meant that I've got to stay home at least for a day or two. So what we're going to do is something that has been requested a lot for bite size. With the increase in sort of Americanization and things like that, there's a lot of talk of zones. I'm going to talk about the way that I sort of do it, and then the way that we have been zoned like the Americans have in recent years, what zones we are. There's going to be pictures and graphics coming up here that I'm going to try and imaginarily sort of indicate things upon. So I have got a computer screen on, just so that I can sort of show you. I've got a bit of text here. There are going to be some sources that are going to be listed down below because I am using other people's materials here. I couldn't create the zone maps and things like that. I'm not that good. So for all credit to them, I'll name them both now. Apologies, this intro is a bit long. One is from allotment-garden.org. Once again, I'll put credit in the description and probably under the images as well. And then the other one, the zoning one, is going to be traybrown.com. which is a result of quite a lot of research. It is the most definitive one that gives the best explanation. So we'll get that talked through. So apologies, it is another dry subject, but it is something that I think is very important for new growers to sort of get the head round. We may be a small continent. It does make a massive difference on sowing and planting times. So please, please, please stay tuned. It's valuable information. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If there's something you'd like me to cover in upcoming bite-sized videos, please leave a comment below the video on YouTube, or add me on Facebook, send me some messages, that's perfectly fine as well. So without further ado, let's get on. Good morning YouTube. Okay guys, so we're going to start with Trey Brown's plant hardiness zone map of the British Isles. Now I'm going to try and sort of put it up here. Now obviously I can't see it at the moment, I'm just looking at a phone at the moment, so pointing is going to be difficult, but I'm going to try. I have got it up on my screen over here, so I am going to have to keep looking over there, and I apologise for that. I know it's disorientating when the guys that are recording aren't looking at the cameras, but it is difficult for me to try and explain. So what we've got here is a map of the British Isles, or the United Kingdom, depending on what you want to call it. And you'll see we've got different colour gradients up and down throughout the country. And you'll also see that weirdly, some of those colour gradients aren't where you'd expect them. This map has been created from the result of, I think it was studies from 1961 to the millennium, so to 2000. And this map has been created off the average temperatures in key growing times, so sort of springtime really. And this isn't your final frost dates. I will try and do final frost dates as well. We'll see how long the video's getting. What this map is the lowest recorded temperatures. This is how the USDA, so the United States Department of Agriculture, do the zoning in these states. They look at the lowest average temperatures. So you'll see there's a key on the map in the top corner over there somewhere, and you'll see you should be able to sort of follow it roughly. Obviously, you know, you need to know whereabouts you are in the country. I'm sort of, this is impossible, sort of middle-ish area around, well, the middle really. I am in zone 8A, so that is where are we? Average is between minus 9.5 to minus 12.2. See, to me that's a range, not an average, but anyway. And what that means is throughout spring, winter and spring, that's the range of the lowest temperatures I could hit. Now what that reflects to, at least for plants, is what you could leave outside. Now what you will see is, as you sort of filter down, we'll focus on sort of going down towards the south of the country really. And you'll see right down on one of the southern tips, you'll see there's zone 10A. Now their average lowest temperatures are 1.6 to minus 1.1, which is a massive difference between the two areas of the continent. Obviously there's not much of that space, and obviously you know that that's because they're closer to the equator. They have generally warmer temperatures. So what does this mean for your plants? Well, for me, not a great deal. This zoning, I believe, doesn't have a massive impact, especially on us allotment growers. We know what we can plant outside and when, and we just generally aim for summer. What I feel has a greater impact, and so I'm not really going to go into this map here, purely and simply because as interesting as it is to know what zoning we're in with the sharing of information and things like that, we can relate things back to what you know, the United States YouTubers and things like that are saying. You can get a good idea of where we are in relation to them, and it does sort of open up new plants that can be grown. You know, what the zoning told me was that I can grow citrus, but I can't put them in the ground. Now, if I was right down in the corners of zone 10A, I could risk putting them in the ground. Same sort of with 9A to 9B, really. You could also risk putting them in the ground there. What it would mean is I would have to protect them through winter, so wrapping them in fleece. If there's a particularly bad cold snap coming, wrapping them in some extra bubble wrap just overnight, just to protect them from the frost. What it means to me up in 8A is that really doing that is not practical. I stand a good chance that things like that are not going to survive. So if I want to do citrus, I'm going to have to keep them small and keep them in pots, which is exactly what I do. I have a couple of lemons, a couple of clementines. I'm trying to get my hands on a lime, and they come in and out of the greenhouse as the seasons change. So that's what I use the zoning for. But like I said, I think it's useful information to know where we are in relation to our friends over in the United States and things like that, so that we can get also, like I said, a good grasp of other things that we can do, other projects, other ideas, other things that we previously wouldn't have grown. Like I said, I'll put a link to the website for this in the description. What I think does make a difference is this one. This one is nothing to do with zoning. What this is, you know, the phases at which you need to relate essentially your seeds. Now what you'll see on this map, this one here, is sort of the heat map. So as the country warms up, and what this relates to is when you're planting your seeds and when you're planting stuff outside. So you'll notice on the back of, do I have anything? I didn't think about this. But you'll notice on the back of your seed packets, I don't think there's, no, it doesn't say anything in there. And I don't have one to hand, sod's law. On the back of your seed packets, you'll have, you know, some little grids, and I'll try and put one maybe over my face or down here somewhere. I'll try and find an example. And what it'll say is it'll have a band of sow indoors, sow outdoors and harvest. Now what I do is I relate that band back to this map, and once again to my rough location on this map. Now me, actually looking at this map, I'm in the green, which if you look at the key suggests that that is where they generally base the, am I in the green? I don't know, this map's not that detailed. Hang on. Am I in the green? Just barely. I'm sort of greeny blue, which is actually what I use. I use sort of the green. Anyway, what the green band is essentially what they base those sow by dates on. The middle of those sow by dates is the green band. So say for example your sow date says March, April, May. May is where you would sow it. The middle of May is where you would sow it if you lived in the green band. I'm going to give up the pointing. This map's nice and clear. So it's where you would plant if you were in the green band. The rest of the map is pretty self-explanatory, really. If you were up in the north of England, so Paul, if you were up in the north of England, Scott, you're another one, you would base your seed sowing 2 weeks later. So you'd be looking, once again, if it said March, April, May, you'd be looking late April, early May. That would be your equivalent sowing date. If you were down in the south, for example, on the Devon coast, on the in Dorset, things like that, Kent coast, you would look at the opposite end. So you would, if it said March, April, May, you'd be looking late March, early April, perhaps even mid-March. You offset your sowing to a matter of weeks. And you can see once again from the map, this is what I've done for years. You're sowing 1 to 2 or up to 3 weeks from the middle of those sowing guides. So once again, just to reiterate, if your sowing guide said March, April, May, if you lived in the central band, the green band on this map, you'd be aiming for the middle of April. And then you offset yourself by a matter of weeks from that central green band as to where you are in the country. Personally, I would have added in the very northern parts of the UK or Scotland, let's call it what it is, but the north of Scotland, not all of Scotland, I would have added another darker band where I would have offset from about 3 weeks. But I can kind of understand why they've done that, because if you push your season obviously too far back, you're not going to have a long enough season to grow some things. There are things you can do to offset by a matter of maybe a week or so. So things like greenhouses, polytunnels, prepping your soil, covering it in black plastic so that it warms up sooner, which is actually an experiment I'm tempted to do this year. My concern with that this year is Slugmageddon. I think, as do a fair few other YouTubers, that we are going to have a massive problem with slugs this year. Winter has been that mild that we think there's going to be a massive problem, which is actually what leads me on to I think it's going to be about 2 or 3 weeks in the making, but I'm going to try and show you a few things to do and deal with slugs, from homemade beer traps made from pop bottles. The reason that's going to take a while is I want to test some of the designs that are out there on the internet and see if I can sort of amalgamate them together to come with one good one, or if the ones that are out there work just fine. The other thing I'd like to do is show you, sorry I just moved the camera, how, or I'm going to attempt to make and farm my own nematodes for slug control. That takes time because I have to harvest around about 20 slugs, and at home, at least for me, I don't have that big of a slug problem. So actually harvesting that many slugs is a little bit different for me. It's a little bit difficult for me. So I'm going to set up some traps. Now, you would say, oh, well, put your beer traps out. That won't work because I need the slugs to survive the night. If they live in beer all night, they actually won't survive. But anyway, that's coming up. So once again, please subscribe if that is of interest to you. We've pretty much covered the zone maps. Like I said, there are things you can do that will sort of change the way you look at these maps. Doesn't massively impact your sow dates, but can extend your season. The ultimate thing is, it's all well and good to say, oh well, I've got a polytunnel. I can plant my tomatoes out in my polytunnel 4 weeks sooner than you because they'll be safe from frost. That is true. That is true. You can plant them 4 weeks earlier than me. They will be safe from frost, guys. I just want to let me just adjust that a little bit. I've just come back in. I'm re-recording this bit. I wasn't too happy with how it came out first time. Frost dates are difficult, really. It's a difficult subject to cover because we're in a period now where we accept that things are changing. Climates and things are changing. So whilst I am going to show you a handy dandy little diagram which will point you in the right direction of rough times of year where your frost dates will change, or where your final frost dates are, I do suggest, I can't stress enough, this is just a guide. At the end of the day, as I've already said, we're in a period of change. You need to be watching your local weather forecasts. You need to be aware that whilst this, for example, for myself, says that my final frost date is around the back end of April, the 4th week in April. Last year, for example, we were still having frosts in May and June. It was not unheard of for frosts to be coming then. I remember last year having to go down and put a load of straw over the tops of my potato plants because I'd already mounded them up twice and there was another frost forecast. So I went down, I covered them with straw. So you do need to be aware that whilst this is here and it is kind of pointing you in the right direction, it isn't gospel. You need to be aware that it is subject to climate change. It is subject to microclimates. They're definitely worth noting. And you may also notice that there's really not a massive variance in the dates, really. But this is the best map I could find anyway. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Ireland north or south on there. For some reason, I could not, for the life in me, find a map. I know it says on this image, click here for... Don't click here, that's not going to do anything. But for some reason, I could not find a map for final frost dates or estimated final frost dates or later, for Northern or Southern Ireland. So we've got mainland England, Scotland and Wales here. You'll see that perhaps some of you might be surprised, especially yourselves around the sort of the lower northern area, sort of around Middlesbrough, Sunderland area, Newcastle, things like that. You'll see that in actual fact, for some of you, your final frost is not due until June time, which is quite a surprise, really. You would have thought that sort of the north of England or the northern areas of Scotland would have been the coldest areas. So it's not just as simple as a north-south divide. So, you know, it does need to be aware, but please, 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 this information is here. I'll link to where I got it from. I don't think that's where it's from. I couldn't find the original source of this map. I could find other maps out there, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, they were really, really difficult to read, especially in video format, so I've had to go with this one. There are interactive maps out there. There are maps that are updated every year. There are websites that are updated every year with average final frost dates. So it is something that I get asked regular, and I will say to you guys, look, here is a rough guide, but local weather forecasts and yearly weather updates and local knowledge are your best sources for your frost dates, because it's so variable. A lot of people are jumping the gun around here saying, I'm going to start planting out things now, and I still think we're going to get some frost dates, some frost maybe at the end of this week. We'll see, but final frosts, it's here. I'll try and remember to link to some websites in the description below, but I do recommend just watching your local weather forecasts and speaking to your local old time growers. But also, like I said, just remember the weather and the climate is changing, so it is something that you need to look at every year. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up. I'm going to call it quits. Guys, please subscribe. I know that sometimes these ones recorded from home are a little bit dry and a little bit dull, but I can't always get to the plot when I want to. So please stick with us. Please hit that like, please hit that subscribe, please comment down below, and I'll see you Sunday.